today I'd like to look at three things. The first is I want to take one more look at the unit circle and add on the tangent ratio. We're going to look at trig outside of quadrant 1 and reference angles. So first, take out your unit circle. Let's practice doing sine and cosine first. So when we're looking for sine and cosine, you just need to look for the angle measure and then look for the appropriate coordinate. Cosine is second. Cosine is first, sorry, sine is second. Now let's take a look at what happens when we have our tangent. So we need to find our reference angle first. So that's going to be pi over 3. Tangent is sine over cosine. So that's going to be root 3 over 2 divided by 1/2. Remember that phrase from back in the old days? Keep, change, flip. So we are going to keep root 3 over 2, change division to multiplication, and flip the 1/2. So my 2's cancel, so I have root 3. Let's take a look at that again. This time I want to consider tan 330 degrees. So find 330 degrees on your unit circle. This time I'm going to have negative 1/2 from sine and root 3 over 2 from cosine. Keep, change, flip. So that's going to give me negative 1/2 times 2 over root 3. My 2's cancel, so I have negative 1 over root 3. Don't forget to rationalize the denominator. So I'm going to have negative root 3 over 3. All right, yesterday we talked about trig functions inside of quadrant 1. Today we're going to move outside of quadrant 1. When we move outside of quadrant 1, what's nice is that the procedure is going to be the same. You're just going to have negative numbers. So let's take a look at what happens when my coterminal point is at negative 6, 3. Of course, you know how I feel about my steps. Our very first step is going to be draw the triangle. So when I draw this triangle, I'm going to get here, and now I need to fill in the appropriate numbers. So my horizontal distance is negative 6. 3 is my vertical distance, and I'm going to use Pythagorean theorem to find the hypotenuse. If you do this correctly, you should get 3 root 5. After you get your 3 root 5, you can then label your triangle opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. So now I can find the trig ratio that the problem is asking me for. This one is secant. Secant is going to be hypotenuse over adjacent. So my hypotenuse in this case is 3 root 5, and my adjacent is negative 6. 3 over negative 6 simplifies to negative 1/2, so I'm going to have negative root 5 over 2. So when we go to look at these problems, you're going to hear me call these things reference triangles. All that happens with reference triangles is you are going to drop almost a perpendicular line from wherever the point is to the nearest x-axis. So the numbers that are going to be important to us are 0, 180, and potentially 360, depending on which quadrant you're in. Our goal is to get a theta that is between 0 and 90 or between 0 and pi over 2. So let's determine some reference angles that we would have inside of a triangle. So for the first one, if we had 130, that one's going to be pretty close to the x-axis in the second quadrant. So we're going to be close to 180. So I'm going to take my 180 and I'm going to subtract the 130. So the reference angle is 30. I'm sorry, the reference angle is 50 because 180 minus 130 is 50. Now let's take a look at 200. This one is still close to 180, but this time it's in the third quadrant. So I'm going to take that 200 and subtract 180 this time to get my 20. So side note, you want to try to make sure your reference angles inside of your triangle are positive. Number 3, this time we're going to take a look at negative 23. Biggest thing here, just change that sign because you don't want to have any negatives. So we're going to have positive 23. So in these problems, you'll see in the practice that sometimes this is just a point, a talking point, rather than a working point.